This is the month of September, and it's the 7th, 2017. This lesson is the servants of God. This is just some more scripture showing you who the servants would be that Isaiah spoke of, that it is not this 2,000-year-old Messiah. Listen to these verses from Isaiah 41 verse 8. But thou, Israel, art my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend. And I did a lesson on this recently, letting you know the servant was not the Most High, but it was Israel. But hear this again. Verse 9, Thou, whom I have taken from the ends of the earth, and called thee from the chief men thereof, and said unto thee, Thou art my servant. I have chosen thee, and not cast thee away. Let's go over now to Isaiah 42 and verse 1. Behold, my servant, whom I uphold, mine elect, in whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him, he shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. Now let's see. Now he says, my servant, whom I uphold, my elect, in whom my soul delighteth. Well, look for this now. Hold on. So they're trying to make you think in the FT as a fairy tale Roman Testament in Matthew chapter 3 verse 17, that the one that the Most High delights in is this 2,000-year-old Roman Messiah, who was a Messiah unto the Romans, and I've got that lesson recorded already, that he was a Messiah unto the Romans. In Matthew 3:17, and lo, a voice from heaven saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. See, they're telling you there is well pleased to make it seem like he delights in him. And from the Greek, the word that they've got there for pleased is saying that it means one's good pleasure. Alright, so to take pleasure in and be favorably inclined towards. Now we know in the scriptures, before the Romans wrote this FT Testament, that Israel was the one the Most High took delight in and had his will surrounding the growth and nurturing of Israel, and bringing Israel to the point where they could do his will and represent him on the earth. So that's just a trick here from the Roman Testament, because when we read the scriptures here, it's clearly telling in Isaiah 42 and verse 1 that the Most High delights in the servant who is Jacob or Israel. So it has nothing to do with this 2,000-year-old Messiah. Isaiah 43 and verse 10. Ye are my witnesses, saith the Most High, and my servant. So he's telling Israel that Israel is a servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. So the knowing and understanding comes from the Most High, not from Jesus or through Jesus, because Israelites should have known and understood the Most High from back then. So this 2,000-year-old Messiah, Jesus or Yahushua, was not necessary for one to know the Most High. Otherwise, no Israelites would have known him. So when Jesus is saying other FT things in the fairy tale Roman Testament about, no man come to the Father but by me and stuff like that, that's a complete lie. Complete lie that they taught us when we were children. Israelites could know the Most High and did know the Most High before Jesus was even said to have been born. So that's utter garbage. 42:19 from Isaiah. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Most High's servant? So he's telling you that because Israel became blind and basically they went astray, they left off Torah, then they became like this, right? They became blind, couldn't see their way and so on. And no wonder they stumbled and fell and so on, and ended up getting the judgment of the Most High. Now if we run to Ezra chapter 5, verse 11 and 12, and these are just some nice scriptures for good teaching for those who are just coming into the knowledge of this, so they can see that this 2,000-year-old Messiah is fake. Ezra 5 verse 11 and 12. Now when they're in the Babylonian captivity, and thus they returned us, saying, we are the servants of the God of heaven. Hear that? These are the Hebrews now saying they're in captivity in Babylon. They said, we are the servants of the God of heaven. Telling you again now that the Most High said in the word through his prophets, saying, the servant is Jacob, the servant is Israel, and so on. Now Israel is speaking for themselves, and they're telling you who the servant is with Torah knowledge, right? They're telling you with knowledge from the scrolls and from their forefathers that they know the servants of the Most High, and that they are the ones who are the servant. So every Israelite person there that they're speaking about is a servant of the Most High, not this Jesus. So the servant was to do the will of the Most High. Jesus was not necessary to do the will of the Most High, but because he already had servants to do the will, then when they would not do the will, then he punished them to get them back on track and so on, right? But they kept following with it. Of course, we know, and we're now here in this long-term captivity, which is getting ready to turn around completely soon. So the servants are telling you, yeah, we're the servant. Like if you have a job, wouldn't you know your position on the job? If you're a secretary, wouldn't you know you're the secretary? If you're a manager, wouldn't you know you're the manager? Well, the servant of the Most High is telling you. The servants are telling you who they are, what they're about. They are the servants, right? And let's read this other one quickly, actually. Powerful verse here from Amos chapter 3, verse 1. Hear this word that the Most High had spoken against you, O children of Israel. In other words, he's speaking against the servant now, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I chosen, have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. So if he says, you only have I chosen, then he's telling you, you're the only servants I have. There's no other servant. So this FT fairy tale Jesus coming talking about he's a servant, expert lie. Expert lie. It's an abomination of wickedness. Let's finish now with that 5 verse 11 and 12 from the book of Ezra. And thus they returned us answer, saying, we are the servants of the God of heaven and earth. Hear that? They are the servants of the God of heaven and earth. That's Israel. And build the house that was builded these many years ago, which a great king of Israel builded and set up. But after that our fathers had provoked the God of heaven unto wrath, he gave them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, the Chaldean, who destroyed this house and carried the people away into Babylon. And what they were doing was trying to rebuild at that time. But they answered and they said, we are the servants of the God of heaven and earth. That's bad. People can just speak like that with authority about the God of heaven and earth. Nobody else can do that but the servants. And you notice that the people in Babylon did not counteract that. In terms of did not fight that down, saying, no, you are not. They were trying to stop them from building, but they did not fight them on the point of being the servants of the God of heaven, because everybody back then knew it very well. That's why they were fighting against them. In chapter 5, verse 15, saying, don't let these people rebuild. Don't let these people, because if they rebuild this city, look, this is hurtful. Jerusalem is hurtful unto kings. All the kings across the river, like about all those cities west of the Euphrates. They're like, these people in Jerusalem are hurtful unto kings. And they let all those kings on the west side of the Euphrates be paying tribute and toll unto them. That's how bad Jerusalem was. That all those kings were under their subjection and they had to be paying all this tribute and taxes and so on to Jerusalem because we ruled. That's why Psalms 83 is saying that they're after us, trying to keep us down and trying to destroy us because they don't want us to get back there. But the Most High says he's going to do it again when he restores us. Because we are the servants of the God of heaven and earth, and he punished us. And that's why we're in captivity, but it's going to turn around soon. The servants of God, that's the children of the Most High.